Good morning. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the City of Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note any website or email that I mention will be posted in the chat box. For those seeking business licensing assistance, you can visit the Small Business Center at City Hall or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, business licenses can be applied for or renewed online at chicago.gov/business licensing. The BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program now has a new portal. If you are already a part of the program, your account will automatically reflect the credit by joining this webinar within 24 hours. If you want to learn more about the program, please visit chicago.gov/BACP certificate. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. I will post the mentioned information in the chat box. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please note that the views, information, and opinions expressed during this webinar are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection or the City of Chicago. Today's webinar will be 2 times your web conversions without learning code, presented by Ari, who is a member of NAWBO Chicago, the National Association of Women's Business Owners Chicago chapter. Ari?
Hi, I was trying to find where my mute button is. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Geraldine. All right, should we go ahead and get started? Geraldine?
Yes, you're all good to get started. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Arik Shurzak. I am the CEO and Head of Strategy at Secalofia. We are a minority and women-owned web agency based out of Chicago. To be exact, we're in Evanston, and we did a lot of different types of web projects. So I'm going to tell a little bit more about that. And also, we're going to be digging deeper into 2 times your website conversion without learning how to code. Why don't we go ahead and get started and just learning a little bit about me and my team. Geraldine already mentioned earlier that I am part of NAWBO as well here in Chicago. Also, we are WBANG certified, WB Women Business Enterprise. We also do a lot of things on the brand strategy part, development, all things on the web. So whether you're building a web platforms, web application, e-commerce website, or even marketing sites, we do everything on the web. So we're going to talk more about all things web. If you have any questions about all things related to website as well, drop it in the chat, and we can always address that as we go along into our conversation today. Now, next up, I typically like to just kind of get to know some of us here. I did share a little bit about myself, and I would like it if you can share in a comment who you are, why you're attending this, and also maybe an answer to some of the cue card below. There are 4 cards to choose from. So if you wanted to share maybe, what's the weirdest food you've ever eaten? Or maybe you have hidden talents, or maybe you would want to actually share, what would you rather give up? Your smartphone or your computer? I know my question is definitely, for this particular answer, I tend to lean more towards my computer. I was like, I'm okay, like giving away my smartphone, but you might have different answer on that one. Or perhaps you want to answer the card number 4, right? What does your typical work from home uniform look like? So definitely share in the chat. And then we can, kind of get started and get a little bit more social before we dive into our conversation today. Now, so I wanted to really ask this question simply because I feel like a lot of time we get very confused in terms of like, why is it that most of our target audience, most of our, potential buyers, potential clients don't really buy directly from us on our website, right? But for us, right, when we feel so confident about buying select brands, like perhaps the new headphones, or maybe it's the new phone that we wanted from Apple, or anything that we feel like, yeah, I'd like that. We feel so confident buying such product, despite, we have to pay premium price on them. But why do we feel confident more making that purchases and comparing it for our customers, do they feel the same way? Do they gain that confidence as well when they come to our website and seeing our, products and services, right? Why can we not get that confidence instilled in our customers so that they can just quickly hit the buy button or book now button? So I think there are a lot more to discuss here. A lot of the time people will come to us and ask, okay, why is that? Why is it not happening in our customers? Is there something that we miss? Or where did we go wrong? Is it the wrong copy? Is it the wrong images? Or what is it that, making our customers or potential customers and clients not wanting to make a purchase or do certain call to action in our website? Now, the root of the problem here is often that we didn't pay close attention to the user centric experience. Having a positive brand experience can often mean they either choose you over the other brand or you are maybe losing the sale, right? So, how can we do this? Like, how can we really figure out a way to really understand your target audience? So, today we'll be talking more about a tool called User Journey. It is the user experience research tool. Some of you may be familiar with it already if you are building your, marketing plan and stuff like that. So perhaps you're already kind of familiar with it. But in the UX research specifically, we use user journey specifically to understand like how do we really bridge the gap between the user also with your brand online so that you can really maximize your site conversion. Now, what is a user journey? Some of us probably like, this is the first time I ever hear about a user journey. What is it? So a user journey, or we like to call it user journey map, right, is a visual trip for the user across the different solutions that you may have provide. So perhaps you provide so many different experiences for your target audience online, or maybe even like offline, on site, on events and things like that. You're basically creating a visual trip of the user across all the different solutions and channels that you have for your business. Now, the user journey tend to considers not only the steps that a user may take, but also we are trying to really consider like what are their feelings, what are their pain points, as well as moments of delight that can really bring joy to their experiences when they get connected with us or when they interact with us, right? So it becomes a visualization of an individual relationship with your product, your service over time and across the different channels that you may already have established. So it could be online or offline, like I mentioned earlier. It could be maybe you're hosting an event, or maybe you are going to different conferences, right? Or perhaps you actually have different presence online. Perhaps it's on LinkedIn, or perhaps it's on Instagram, or maybe even on YouTube. So we'll talk more about the different channels and touch points. And then we're going to go ahead and start with step one, right? We're going to get into the nitty gritty right away. In the step one, you need to know your audience. I feel like a lot of times you probably have heard this being said over and over, but knowing your audience is really critical before you do anything else in your business, right? Before you do any marketing, before you do, any PR activities and all the different areas about your business, it all stems from knowing your audience very well. So understanding them by digging deeper into their life is the top tip that I would give here today. If you can really take away one thing, it would be like really to understand your audience, right? You may already know who they are, right? Most of us probably already have built our own audience, our persona for the target audience we are after, who they are. We probably already have a clear idea of that question. But where do they live or hang out? Perhaps we have some of that as well. But this third question, typically something that get people hung up a little bit. What's their behavior or thinking like? Do we know that, their current life right now, like what stage are they in right now in their life? So this question is my favorite question actually, because you need to understand like where they are in their life stages. Because if you're targeting, let's just say like women who are trying to plan their wedding in their 20s versus those who are trying to plan their wedding in their 40s, that can look quite different. Even though the offerings of the services that you want to provide for them is exactly the same thing, but the way they are thinking about the planning of the wedding in their 20s versus the way they plan in the 40s, gonna look it's gonna look completely different, right? So think about it, like, who are these people? Like, how old are they? Where do they live? Like, what's their thinking and behavior like? As well as, like, where are they in their life right now? Perhaps this is their second wedding, or maybe this is like their very first time, planning their wedding. It could contribute to a lot of the different behaviors and thinking before they, decide in choosing your service or your product. And then the last question that I tend to ask people on really understanding your target audience is that, what are their deciding factor? Is it convenience? Is it pricing? Is it something else? Is it expertise, right? Why would they go to you? Is it because you are the quickest that can give the time turnaround? Or is it because you're the best expert in the industry? What is it that they really wanted to take into an account before they want to go with you? All right. So pro tip here about, understanding your target audience. Don't create a persona or, a target audience information or avatar for the sake of creating it, right? I know oftentimes, in the beginning, businesses would just create things like, yeah, we need to create it as a checklist, but don't treat it like a checklist. You really need to understand your target audience better, because you'll be leveraging these information on so many different areas for your business. So help your business grow by understanding the key insights from your customers on top of what you already know, specifically around their behavior and thinking that I mentioned earlier. It's really critical, because knowing those information can really help you frame your own service, your own products, so that it can really make sense. Like, is this something that I really need right now? From the point of view of a user, they're going to ask those questions when they look at your website, and really trying to, like, self-identifying, is this something I need? Or is this even, something relevant that I need to pay attention to right now in the moment that I'm in my life stage, right? So that's a pro tip. And then the step 2 that I have here is aligning it with their needs. How can your service or product really help improve their life? I feel like there often misalignment in terms of, like, what your target audience needs, as well as some of the offerings or products that you may have. But when you do find those alignment, right, it can become very clear for you to leverage it as part of your USP, or even like a quick highlight on your website copy that really get your target audience attention. So aligning, their challenges and needs with what you're offering could be a really great way for you to pull up that information, using it as your positioning as well. And on top of that, leveraging those information as copy websites, and, really help the user try to understand it better and quickly, whether or not they need your service or product. So some of the questions that you may be able to leverage in this particular step could be, how does your service or product solve your target audience challenges and needs? You probably already know what their challenges and needs are, but exactly how your service or your product can really solve that particular challenges. Write that down, and then you'll have, like, a good chunk of content that you can leverage, so that you can take it to your copywriter or your web person, and then brainstorm some ideas in terms of, like, how can we really communicate this into our web pages. And then the second question that you can ask is, what's your unique selling proposition or USP, right? It could be an irresistible offer as well that can help address their challenges and needs. Perhaps you already have your USP statement. That's great. But if not, think about, like, what would be some of the latest campaign that you really want to execute. And then what is that challenges the audience experiencing right now, and how can you maybe latest products or latest services can really help address that? So that could be one other way to look at it. The third question that you could ask yourself is, where would they go or talk before they find your service or even products, right? I feel like a lot of us, whether we have service or product-based business, there's got to be a cycle, or more so, like, this order, right? In terms of, like, I need to get this first before I get to that. So if let's just, for example, say you own an SEO company, right? It's a service-based business. And before people go to an SEO company, what do they need, right? They might need to have a better understanding about their branding first, or maybe a little bit more in terms of like content creation and things like that. So perhaps they're gonna go to a brand agency first before they go to an SEO, company or agency. So think about like, where do they go? Who do they talk to before they find a service or product? Because that could really lead into like areas of different channels you could use for opportunities introducing your service and products. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly pause over here. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will address all of the questions together at the end. Okay. The next tip that I have for the step number 2 is that to revisit your persona again, because it is not going to be the only time you'll be looking at your persona or your target audience information, right? You're going to keep going back into your persona. And this is why your persona is going to be very important for your business in understanding like who they are, what they need, and how you're really aligning your services and products, to their particular needs in life. Okay, so revisiting that and really looking at the big portion on their behavior as well as the way they think, right? Some of us might have clients or, customers who only rely on reviews, for example, or some of them really just rely on like referrals. Like think about like your own target audience in terms of like, where do they rely on information? Is it through magazine? Is it through just like seeing it online? Or is it through seeing like so many different reviews online? Or is it through word of mouth or referrals, right? So really thinking about like how could really influence their either trusted circle, maybe their friends or family, before they really develop a trust to purchase from you or even get connected, with you. All right. The step number 3 here is designing the experience. So this is the fun part, in my opinion. Once you have all the information, it's really fun to really visualizing their journey on all of the different touch points and channels that you have. So earlier I mentioned channels as well as touch points. What are the difference between the two? Channels are a way for you to understand where customers come from and how they interact with you or the company or the business or the brand, right? Whereas touch points are more precise and more specific. An example could be online. Online could be a channel, right? Online chat could be a touch point. Or if we look at it in your website as an example, your website is a channel, and then your homepage or contact page could be your touch point. So I think that's pretty easy to understand. If you have more questions on this, just drop it on a chat and we can talk more about it. Now, here's more examples between channels and touch points that you may be able to consider and help visualize, some areas of opportunities. Think about the website. You have your website, right? There are so many different touch points that you can leverage in your website. You have your homepage, you can create sales funnels, you can create more information on contact page, or even like leveraging web chat window, content pop-up. There's so many more, different touch points that you can leverage inside your website channel. Now, social media is also a channel, right? Think about your carousel, your posts, your stories, all the lives, and even like any ads in this particular channel could also be a touch point that you could leverage. Search engine, that's yet another channel that you could leverage. Think about all the articles that you have built up in the past for your website. Maybe you have lots of blogs or even, YouTube videos, case studies. Reviews can also be a touch point. Press and media mention can also be a touch point for your search engine channel. All right, now we're getting into the example of what user journey typically look like. So if you Google online, like what user journey typically look like, it might look like something like this, right? You'll have the scenario in terms of like, what the typical scenario when a user or a customer or potential lead a client coming to you, what their situation look like, how do they feel generally, their challenges and stuff like that. You might have some, information similar to that, and you have probably seen it something like this. Now, it could get as simple as this, right? For a user, for a customer journey map or user journey. and it could also look as extensive as this. So there is no right and wrong technically when it comes to creating a user journey. What is important is to really take into an account, your target audience, right? Their scenario in terms of like what are their challenges and what their needs are right now, and how your service or product can really help improve their lives. And then the different stages in terms of like how do they hear about you, right? What do they need to consider before they go with you or purchasing from you? And then after that, like at what point do they show interest and get interaction with you, as well as converting into a client or a customer for you? And then after that, what are some of the different stages look like? Maybe you'll have like post purchase stage where you really want to nurture these clients and then become a retained client, or maybe like a ambassador for future lead in your network. So there's so many different ways to do it, but for the conversation that we will have today, as well as the worksheet that I would be sharing with you, we'll be leveraging this particular worksheet that I have built in the past couple of years. And this is really simple to start, because then you don't need to worry too much into the different stages and details. It could be really simple to start because you can focus on one particular goal, one particular scenario, and also one particular user expectation. So here on this example, you'll see three different things, right? Things that you need to really visualize for a user journey are: number one, your user scenario, goals, and expectation. Number two, you'll see that in the middle section, it will be their emotions and responses to the experiences on your website. And then the third section, all of those different 4 columns that you see on the third section, those are the areas of opportunities where you can address your audience pain point. So it's going to be pretty simple. You can download this as well once Geraldine put the link in the chat, and you can leverage the worksheet. You can print it out and then you doodle it whenever you get a chance to spend some time to create your user journey. All right, now here's the pro tip. When you start putting the 3 steps together, right, in the user journey, you'll need to ask a question that will help you identify which channels and touch points make the most sense for you to invest, your time, your money, your efforts, because you cannot be in so many different channels and touch point at the same time. Well, unless you have a lot of money, of course, and a lot of marketing budget to spend on. But one question that can really help you would be, where can you really connect with your target audience, right? To make sure that your brand, your company stay on top of their mind, right? If the channel that you think would be the best place would be your website, then you focus more on that. If the channel that you think would be the best place to connect with them will be on Instagram, and that's where you need to focus a lot of your user journey creation and visualizing that more towards the social media channels, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, or TikTok, right? So really think about like, where would that be in terms of the places, the channels, the touch points that would really help your brand to stay on top of their mind. Okay, so we're going to recap here real quick. The step 1 was all about target audience, understanding who they are, where do they live, where do they hang out, their thinking and behavior, as well as where they are in their life right now, and their deciding factor. And then the second step, right, really understanding the alignment that you have between your service or product or your offerings with what your target audience really needs. And then the third one is experience design. That's where you really start mapping out like what this journey going to look like for your target audience. Okay, so next up, I have 5 questions your users ask before conversion take place. These are the typical questions that, like myself and everybody else, most users will ask this question before they decide on something when they land on a website, including maybe your website. So the first question that they would tend to ask is, what is this website all about, right? Don't we hate it sometimes that whenever we go to a website, it doesn't really tell us anything about it? They have all of these like different graphics and, headlines and everything, and you keep scrolling and you still don't get it, right? So what is this website all about? You need to make sure that you put your USP or your maybe positioning statement or something that is more catchy and people can really get it. What is it that you do or what is it that you provide before they scroll more and try to find more information? And then the second question, how does it work? Yes, we are pretty savvy, right? However, when we get to any website, we're just putting this hat that basically wanted to feel guided, be guided on the website as well. And just like tell us what it's all about, tell us how it works. Because even though you may already know all things about subscription model on any website or in e-commerce website, there might be something that is different with how you approach certain thing on your process, right? So explain that, like, how does it work? Typically, a 1, 2, 3 steps is more than enough. If there are more information about how it works for your own company, you can always link that to yet another page that explain it in more in detail. But having just a quick, simple section that explain how does it typically work, right? It will really help your target audience to understand more in terms of like, okay, this is cool. How does it work? Like, what do I need to do? That needs to be included on your homepage. And then the third question that I have here, can I trust this brand? How many times that we would go on a website and then still thinking is like, I never heard about this brand before. Like, is this brand legit? Like, is this brand not going to steal my money or whatever, right? So how can you know that you can trust a brand? So you could leverage a lot of the, things that you maybe already have. Certification could be one way to show that, you can trust this brand. Or maybe the type of companies or brands that you have worked in the past, or perhaps you have different press that you have gained in these past year or even this past 5 years, but you can still leverage those assets and social proof to really build up the trust with your target audience. And don't forget the reviews. I'm pretty sure all of us have at least 2 or 3 reviews or testimonial, right? We can use that as a way to build up trust in your homepage for your target user to see like, hey, past clients or past customers have experience with this brand, and it will be really good for them to really read all the different experiences from the people that you maybe already have interacted with or your past customers, so that they can understand like how was it when buying from you or when purchasing from you, or maybe even like working or experiencing getting the products from this particular brand. Now, getting into the fourth question, when they're hooked, when you already got the answer to number 1, number 2, number 3 all check, number 4 you already got them hooked. Now this is the stage they're gonna ask like, okay, now how do I sign up? How do I buy? Right? You already build up that confident and instill it within their mind so that they know what they wanted, and that will be the step that they're gonna take next, right? So where do they buy? How do they sign up? They're gonna be asking for that. What's next would be the other key thing that you need to include. So after you have your very clear call to action, whether it's shop now, buy now, call now, whatever, right? You're going to have to think about what's next. Once they click that button, where do they go? Do they go to your sign up page? Do they go to, book a call right away? Or do they get an email, right? Think about like what's next for them as soon as they make that decision. I often see a lot of different websites didn't really take account of like, okay, what's next, and just like leave the user hanging. Let's not do that, because you want to make sure that you're delivering the best experience for your target audience before they even become your customers. Okay, the next part that I have here is a quick reminder about all things related to your digital channel, especially for your website, right? The OTA that I have here is some sort of like check mark or check mark or check boxes that you'll need to take account in terms of like maximizing the conversion for your website. So the first one is optimize. Optimize your website for mobile devices if you're not already. And this is like for the different screens that we already have, whether it's on mobile or even on tablet, right? Make sure that you really optimize your website to look really good on different screens. And then make it clear, make it simple, make it really easy and secure for any user, as well as make it accessible for them to do the call to action that you want them to do. So whether it's, like buy now, book now, or whatever call to action you have on your buttons, right? It needs to be clear, it needs to be easy and really accessible for them. The second one, the T, is tests or testing. Audit and testing, for a website is really recommended once every quarter at least, to just really understand, like, okay, do we have any gaps at all? Is there any disconnected experiences, or maybe broken links or broken automation? You'll be surprised sometimes when you do these audits, right, that you find so many different links or maybe different broken automations that happen throughout your website, and that contributes to the lack of conversion that you are getting for your website, whether it's sales, whether it's bookings, and so forth. And then also do use A/B testing to continually improve your site's performance. So if you have a campaign that you want to test, you have this landing page or sales page that you really want to promote, make sure you do an A/B testing, trying to figure out, like, if we do this or make this tweak in this particular campaign, like which one going to perform better? Because I feel like the best idea on executing a campaign has always been on the testing side, right? You want to make sure that you get the most conversion on your website. And in order to do that, having a split test or an A/B testing can be really useful, so that like which one performed better, and then continue testing that way. And then the last one that we have is analyze, right? Regularly analyzing your website, whether it's the data and your customer feedback, to really just help you improve on all the areas you need on the website. Because sometimes they're the one who really go into your website and experiencing it. You may not, come to your website all the time, but as the customers, experiencing things on the different pages for your site, they might experiencing slightly different error or different, broken links that they have seen, and they can maybe chat with you to share those information so you can make the improvement. All right, so that's OTA. The last part that I have here are some examples. So we're gonna look at some bad UX example and some of the good ones as well. So this one specifically on KindBody, you may have seen this website or you may have not. Maybe this is your first time seeing it. At a first glance, this website looks great, right? It looks great. However, the big issue that I noticed from this website is that they are using so many different content sliders or carousel in one page. It's okay to use carousel content sliders on your page, but when you create a page with so many different content sliders or carousel in one page, that is a lot of work that you're asking a user to do. So if you put them on the top and then yet again in the middle and then yet again near the footer, right, that's a lot of different action you're asking the user to essentially explore on just one page. So if you decide to use a content slider or a carousel, make sure that you have a strategic plan in terms of like where you're planning to put it. And at least, make sure that you put only one in one page. All right, the next bad UX example that I've seen is this one. You probably noticed that there's this like ongoing text that keep, sliding. And the big reason why this one looks really, not just confusing, but also overwhelming, right? Because it's stacked together. So if you happen to really want to use some effect like this or some animation with your text like this, try not to use it in stack layout like this, but also not too fast, right? Sometimes when users come into a website and see things that are moving, it looks cool, but if it's too fast or if it's like stacked together between one and another, it gets very overwhelming for the user and, making them feeling frustrated. Now, a good example would be this. So make the text a bit bigger, have the slider move a little bit slowly. That would be much easier for, a user to really follow what is it that you wanted to include in the experience for the website. Another bad UX example that I tend to see on websites are, some of the decisions around where do I put my social proof. Now, if you have a lot of social proof, I would highly recommend to make sure that you put it above the fold, right? So above the fold, essentially before a user scroll on your website, and not putting it so far down near the footer, right? We want to make sure that we highlight all the great things that you do, all the, amazing social proof that you have above, like above the fold, and just to make sure that, they don't miss all the great things and building up the trust immediately with you. Here's a good example. So you'll notice over here that right after the image, you see they have a press, they have, 5-star rating. They even have, like a social impact that they included up there. So it builds up such great trust already. And it's the best place to put it, right? So why put every great things that you already did for your customers, for your business right below where you can actually showcase that a little bit further on the top and then building up the trust immediately. All right, so we can go ahead and start opening up with questions. But before that, if you have more questions after this, feel free to reach out to me. There's so many different things that I have seen this past 12 years building my company and also working on all things on the web. I'm pretty sure there's so many different, challenges that a lot of you may have on websites. I hear it all the time, but we have the answers. But if we don't have the answer, we'll be working with you to figure it out together. Okay.
Great. Thank you
Last,
so much, Ari. Oh, I'm
yes.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of the time I also got, different questions around like, okay, what is it that we miss? Or like, how can we really think through our brand as well as our website? So my partner and we created this book to really help a lot of you, business owners as well as the marketing directors to really get, the insights of how do you plan that strategy before you put it on a website, right? So this book is not about creating a website. It's actually more about like the strategy behind it. So if you have more question around the strategy pieces, how to connect the dots between your brand into the digital experiences and some information on the technical aspect of website, you might enjoy this book. And with that, I would just pass it to you, Geraldine.
Great. Thank you so much, Ari. What a great presentation. If anyone has any questions, if they could please put them in the chat. I'll give everyone a little bit of time to absorb all that great info and just put their questions in the chat. So we'll give everyone a minute or two. And while they're doing that, I'm going to put your link to your worksheet into the chat as well. Are there any recommendations on web hosting companies to use?
Yes. So for web companies that do hosting, we personally love Flywheel. Also WP Engine are a great one as well. Those are the two top ones that we tend to use and recommend to clients.
Great, thank you. And everyone, here is the link to the worksheet. Give everyone a minute or two. I'm also going to put the link in the chat for business licensing, and this webinar is being recorded in the YouTube page.
While you do that, I'm also going to share this real quick. So if any of you wanted to just gain more resources around all things on the website, right? Or even like branding and user experiences, we do have a lot of resources on our website as well as on LinkedIn. So, questions like 5 questions to ask before choosing a web platform. I hear that all the time. Or perhaps you have, just like some questions related towards like what is dashboard for UI design and things like it, or a Shopify store, right? What are some of the bad signs of website design? So all of those, we covered a lot of the different topics on the website. So you can check out my website or find me on LinkedIn because all of these resources are also posted on LinkedIn.
Okay, great. We'll give everyone one more minute. And I don't know if you scroll through the chat, they did ask, some people did answer your questions early on. It seems that people are giving up their smartphones over their personal computers, which I didn't think that. And then we have a favorite uniform for working at home is pajamas.
Nice.
The weirdest food we ever eaten was in Scotland.
Oh, I wonder what was that? Haggis. What's a haggis?
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Dawn, if you want to reply and let us know what that is, what everyone's putting in their questions.
I'm also putting my LinkedIn here in case anybody want to connect after this.
We'll give it one more minute. Any recommendations for reaching out to the Hispanic population?
That's a good question. Virginia, I would ask, who are your target audience within that population? Because it's like asking like, okay, how do I reach women, right? I mean, like there's a lot of different stages in life. So really looking at it in terms of like who's gonna need it within the Hispanic population, like who's gonna need it? Are they moms? Are they, like dads who's working from home, or maybe they're actually elderly, right? So who are these people? Because I feel like within the Hispanic population, you might have a subsection that you want to go a bit more deeper. But in general, though, I feel like Hispanic population, that is a very broad target audience. But if you can go deeper a little bit and find some of the pinpoints in terms of like life stages as well, you might find different groups that are connected to their needs or connected to their challenges, and you can be in front of them, by either going to the events by those particular communities or groups, and then explore more different channels and touch point that way.
She added people who are looking for a career change.
Have you looked at any, I would say, like career development, either agencies or companies specifically for Hispanic community? I feel like if you Google that, you might find different organization that either does that or serve these particular demographic. And I would definitely start from there.
Great, thank you. Give it one more minute. Anyone else have any questions? When a small business is looking to hire someone to assist with their website, what are the best qualifications they should be searching for?
I like this question. Number one, definitely get my book because it highlights all the different things when you're hiring, right? The type of work that you maybe needed, like who would be better. Is it going to be like agency? Is it going to be a freelancer? The different types of the project that you're working on probably going to need different type of skills and resources. So the big thing that I would say in terms of like qualification would be like, what are their expertise? So say, for example, that you want your website to be an e-commerce website and it has to be on Shopify, right? So if you're looking for any web person, they at least need to know how to do things on Shopify. If they're a web company or agency, or maybe not a web person, a freelancer who only does things on Drupal, for example, and has never done Shopify, I would not hire them, right? So find somebody who aligns with the resources you needed and the challenges that you're having right now, and really ask them, what are some of the, past 2 or 3 case study that they have done within the similar project that you're working on right now, or the website that you have right now, or plan to do, that is.
Okay, great. Any other questions? We'll give it one more minute. Every time I'm about to end it, one more pops up. Okay, I think that is all the questions today. Ari, thank you so much for this great presentation. We really appreciate your taking your time out to help educate these entrepreneurs. Everyone, thank you for attending. Hope everyone has a great and safe weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.